What's up guys, my name is Ace, and now that I've got a good handful of days with Modern Warfare 3, it's time for my initial launch review. Keeping in mind this is still very early on in the life cycle, I do feel like I've put enough time in now that I've got a good handle on how the game is going to play in general. Obviously, there's going to be little things that we just haven't discovered yet that will come up over time, so that may change my opinion over time. And also keep in mind, this review is focused entirely on the multiplayer portion of the game and primarily just on the 6v6 experience. So let's just dive right into this, and we'll start it off with a lot of the good things that I've noticed with the game. This is pretty easy to just sort of list them out, so it's very likely going to be a much shorter section than the bad side, but that doesn't mean that I hate the game or anything. But when it comes to the good side, the movement feels so much more free than Modern Warfare 2. The gunplay feels excellent. I'm somebody that doesn't mind the slightly longer time to kill. I can kind of take it or leave it. I don't mind Modern Warfare 2's time to kill. I don't mind Modern Warfare 3's time to kill. It just takes a little bit of gameplay adjustment to get used to it. On top of this, I'm loving the maps in the game. Yes, they are the original Modern Warfare 2 maps, so no new maps at launch, and I guess that's a little bit of a bummer. I would like to see some new maps, and I'm curious to see how the game plays with some new maps. But I've got to say, playing on these old Modern Warfare 2 maps feels great. They're very familiar, there's a lot of nostalgia, I already kind of know all the power positions and everything, but what I've been noticing is there's a lot of little subtle changes, and most of the time these changes are for the better, at least in my opinion. It opens up a different way to approach certain situations, and I really like that. It's a very familiar feeling and flow, but there's still plenty of new little tricks that you can learn on these maps. After that, the perk system. This is a massive improvement from Modern Warfare 2, but that's not really saying much. Anything is better than what we had in Modern Warfare 2 for the perk system. Honestly, I do think a pick 10 system would have been better than this vest system that they're using. So I'm not saying this is like the best perk system we've ever had, but I am liking it so far. I'm hoping they are willing to add more vests over time just to free up some more combinations, for instance. But time will tell on that. Overall, I would put the perk system in the good side though. And on that note of perks, we have a Dead Silence perk back in the game, or Covert Sneakers in Modern Warfare 3, and this makes a huge difference for just getting people moving and allowing for that extreme aggression that I really like in Call of Duty. It's just really refreshing to be able to flank properly now and pull a really cool move on somebody and be really sneaky without them just hearing your exact location in real time, which just completely invalidates that play that you just made. Additionally, a big thing that was massively improved from the beta is the spawn system, at least in the game modes I tend to play. So domination, team deathmatch, kill confirm, those style of game modes are the ones that I typically stick to. These spawns are so much better now compared to the beta. Map control is finally back, which is a huge thing that was missing from the last Call of Duty game. And it feels great to once again be rewarded for gaining and holding map control, especially in domination. It feels like domination again, whereas it never really felt like domination to me in Modern Warfare 2. Now I will say the map control is not as extreme as the original Modern Warfare 2, which is a good thing. I think they were maybe a little too sticky in the original Modern Warfare 2, a little too trappy. You can't trap quite as hard as the old days, and it is more genuinely just map control. If you hold 2/3 of the map, the enemy is almost always going to be spawning on that 1/3 of the map. Now, just a couple caveats with this one. I do realize that the hardpoint spawns are a complete mess at launch. I don't personally play hardpoint, so I haven't been experiencing this too much. I've kind of been staying away from it after a lot of the clips and stuff that I've been seeing. Hardpoint is rough when it comes to spawns, but for team deathmatch, domination, kill confirmed, the general spawn logic seems great so far, and I would say maybe some minor tweaks are in order for specific maps and specific situations, but the main thing is the general logic is in a good place, at least in my eyes. As for the next thing that I'm really happy to see, the detailed stats in the gunsmith. This makes a big difference for me. I really like this. I know it doesn't directly impact the gameplay, but it just makes it so much easier to see what's going on as you're putting all your attachments on your gun and finding that perfect combination. And on top of this, something that I really like that most of you guys probably will never notice or even interact with, the custom game setup is so much better in this game compared to Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 2's custom game setup was super bugged. After every game, you had to like back out and redo all of your settings over again. And while we still don't have the option to like save your custom game settings, I find it's a little easier to navigate. And also, when you back out of that custom game, it puts you back into your custom game lobby with those settings saved. And for me, as somebody that does a ton of custom game testing, this goes a long way. And then finally on my list here that I threw together for the good side of things, I really like the camo system. I'm really excited to be grinding for camos this year. There's no ridiculous long shot grind, but they did keep the excellent general structure that Modern Warfare 2 had with their camo system. So they basically just took that system and improved it, and I'm really liking where that's at. And that is going to wrap it up for the good. Of course, I'm sure I missed a bunch of little things here or there, but these are the primary things that came to my mind as I was making this list. Now let's move on to the straight up bad section. And what I mean by the straight up bad section is these are things that are unlikely to be changing, and we're likely just going to be stuck with them through the year. And the first thing is the matchmaking. Holy crap, it's been a sweaty experience since the game has launched. I know it really feels like they have just cranked the skill-based matchmaking to the max. I don't think this is actually the case. I think all we're seeing here is a massive influx of players at launch. And the more players you have, the more accurately this matchmaking system is able to place you with those similarly skilled, or more accurately, similarly recent performanced players, because the system doesn't actually look at your overall skill level, it looks at your recent performance. And yeah, that can really make it feel like it's cranked up. I fully expected this to be the case. This is modern Call of Duty. I absolutely hate the current state of matchmaking. It is not a fun experience. Thankfully, you're likely going to be seeing some of this gameplay in the background. If you party up with a full party of 6, this can alleviate it, and I did find that I was getting some more easier or mixed lobbies throughout there. And of course, I'm going to be recording my good games, so I get it. If you watch my gameplay, you might be thinking like, oh, you have no idea how bad it gets. I definitely do, but I'm obviously not recording those gameplays because I'm not performing as well, and people generally want to see good performance on YouTube. Next, another thing that's straight up bad with this game, in my opinion, is the disbanding lobbies. Again, this is just a modern COD issue. It was fully expected. I'm very annoyed by it. I just really miss developing those rivalries and friendships and having the ability to have a rematch after a close game. I also miss the consistency of the connection experience from game to game. That's another issue I've been experiencing since launch, is just inconsistency from one game to the next. And this, combined with the matchmaking system, really puts a damper on the experience overall. After that, for the bad section that's unlikely to change, the user interface. It's pretty much exactly the same as Modern Warfare 2. It straight up sucks. It seems like nobody likes this, and yet they insist on sticking to it. It's just frustrating and difficult to navigate. I'm actually genuinely thinking this year I'm going to make a user interface navigation guide. It's gotten to the point where it's that bad, because I've actually found some shortcuts. There's a skill gap to navigating the UI, and that should never be the case. It should be easy and intuitive. And then finally, for this bad section that I don't anticipate is going to be seeing any changes throughout the year at least, this is the fact that in order to unlock our basic class items, wins are a huge factor in this. So after you complete your 3 daily challenges in multiplayer, then the only way to get those armory unlocks, which are used to unlock basic class items like various perks and equipment and guns and kill streaks, for instance, in order to progress toward those basic items, you have to get wins. And I don't think that's well suited to Call of Duty. I'm definitely on board with encouraging and rewarding wins, but I don't think your basic items should be locked behind wins. Now, is this going to be a big deal for long? No, probably not. I mean, I'm already at the point where I've unlocked most of the items that I really wanted anyway through the armory unlock system, and the rest I'll just slowly progress through over time. But I still do find this a little bit frustrating, and I don't like the fact that they went that route for getting those additional tokens. I would have preferred something different to get those tokens. So there we go. That's the straight up bad section with the game that I've got. And you might be thinking that was way too short. Don't worry, I still have a long list of things to go here. But everything I'm stating from this point on is either definitely going to be fixed. In fact, Sledgehammer has acknowledged many of these issues, and we will be seeing a fix for it. Or it's just things that I think will be reasonably fixed or just improved over time with the game. They're not like core issues that are deeply embedded with the game. They're just little things that can be adjusted and tweaked. And the first big one that's definitely frustrating, especially early on in the life cycle right now, is the fact that certain daily challenges are just not tracking properly, and this is significantly holding back your ability to progress and unlock your basic class items. In general, I actually don't mind the armory unlock system, aside from the fact that, like I mentioned, you need wins to get those additional points after your 3 daily challenges. And then also, of course, if they're not tracking, obviously that's a big problem, because it also seems to be tracking inconsistently from player to player. So for some people, they're having no problems completing their daily challenges, and therefore they're getting a huge leg up in progression because they're unlocking all of these items that other people are unable to progress toward because their daily challenges aren't tracking. So this one is quite a big issue. I fully anticipate they're going to get on top of this because it is such an important thing to be fixing, but it is a big issue nonetheless. As for the next thing I wanted to mention here, this is just connection inconsistency and more so general desync that I've noticed in game. And this is best described as time to kill versus time to die, or at least the feeling of time to kill versus time to die. I've had quite a few games since launch where it just feels like the enemies can kill me in like 1 or 2 bullets, and yet it takes me like 5 or 6 bullets to kill them. And obviously that's just not a fun experience when you're just getting insta-melted in a game where the time to kill is actually slower than what we've been used to for the past couple of years, but it still feels like you're dying just as fast. Now, this isn't every game, and when the connection's good, it feels great, but when the connection's bad, it does feel awful. Now, when it comes to this, when I look back to like all of my early reviews from older Call of Duty games, this complaint pops up almost every single year. So I anticipate it's something to do with these servers being overloaded, or they need to tweak things or something, and it will work itself out over time, because it always does stabilize over time with Call of Duty. And that's not to excuse it. You would think by now they would have that figured out and we'd have a smooth launch. They've launched how many Call of Duty games now every single year? You'd think they'd be on top of this by now. So I'm not excusing it, but I am looking to history, and history shows that this is often really bad in the launch window, and then it slowly improves over time. As for the next thing on my list that isn't so good about this game, but will likely be adjusted, this is hardpoint spawns. I already kind of touched on that in the past. I just wouldn't recommend playing hardpoint at the moment. The spawns are brutal in that mode specifically. Next, something that's frustrating, but Sledgehammer has acknowledged it, so we will be seeing a fix soon. The elevation indicators on the minimap letting you know if an enemy is above or below your elevation. Those aren't working at the moment, and that's generating some frustration with the gameplay. Additionally, EOD is not properly clamping explosive damage at the moment. It seems to be reducing damage as long as it's a non-lethal amount of damage, but there's no damage clamp there, so you can die to a single frag grenade at full health while using the perk that's meant to make it so you can survive those situations. Additionally, with perk issues, the cold-blooded perk is just straight up not working, or I guess it's called the hijacked IFF strobe. I'm just gonna keep calling it cold-blooded, I think, for the year. At the moment, if you equip this perk on your class and try to spawn in, you will spawn in with a totally different class setup that doesn't even contain cold-blooded, so it's just broken at the moment. That will definitely get fixed. Additionally, something I expect will improve over time, but I gotta say it's in a bit of a rough state at the moment. This is weapon balance, and more specifically, the SMG versus assault rifle weapon balance. At the moment, assault rifles are just the clear choice. They have so much more versatility compared to the SMGs, and that's not to say that there aren't very small windows where SMGs will outshine assault rifles. There are, but in general, when you look at the engagement distances you tend to find in this game, the assault rifles are just the clear choice, and it can be really difficult to compete in a really highly competitive lobby with SMGs against people that are using assault rifles. And when it comes to this, they're always tweaking weapon balance throughout the year, so I'm sure this will improve over time as they collect data, but at the moment, assault rifles are the clear choice. Next, there's a bug with the Pull Me Out LMG. If you try to put an underbarrel on, it just doesn't work, and that seems to be applying to everybody out there. Another thing is some tactical sprint and slide cancel issues. Sledgehammer has confirmed they're going to be adjusting that, so a fix is coming. We'll have to test it after it ends up getting fixed to see if it's where we want it to be, but just something I wanted to point out here. Next, another little bug I've noticed once, this has only happened to me once so far, but I have seen some other people talk about it, is sometimes when you spawn in after you die, your camera will be rotated a few degrees, and it's like one leg is shorter than the other. And this bug has popped up in some previous Call of Duty games. Hopefully this is something they know how to fix and can get on top of quickly. After that, it looks like they've tuned up their inactivity timer a little bit too strict. This is something I haven't run into at all because I'm generally moving around the map as much as I can, but I've seen a lot of complaints about this, and I've seen the clips. And while sure, the people that are getting kicked for inactivity may be kind of on the campy side, or they're not moving a whole lot, you still shouldn't be kicked for the game for playing like that. I may not like that playstyle, but the people in these clips that I've been seeing, they are moving around and they're aiming at things and they're doing stuff in the game, even though they might not be moving far or fast, and they're still getting kicked from the game. And that's something that I just think needs to be tweaked a little bit. Obviously, I think there should be an inactivity kick timer, but it just needs to be more forgiving than it currently is. And then finally, for issues I've got on my list here, I have noticed that loadout bug is popping up from time to time. I've only experienced this a couple times so far. This is something they apparently fixed from the beta build of the game, but it's definitely not fixed. And this is just where you'll be playing normally, and then out of nowhere, it just opens up your loadout screen to change the loadout, even though you definitely didn't press the button to do that. And that's obviously an annoyance that can get you killed. And with that, I think that's a good place to leave that. Again, there may be a few things on the bad side or issues side that I missed out on as I was creating this list, but I think I got most of them, or at least most of the main ones. And when it comes to my final thoughts in this review, this may not be a popular opinion, but I'm always going to be honest with you guys, good or bad. I know either way I go, I'm either going to be a shill or a hater. This year, I guess I'm going to be a shill, because I genuinely like this game. Yes, it's got a list of these issues that need to get worked on, and I'm sure many of them will be improving or just straight up fixed over time. We will have to see what that post-launch support looks like. But in general, if we just focus on the core gameplay of Modern Warfare 3, it just feels so refreshing coming from Modern Warfare 2. I feel like when I die, I deserve that death. I didn't feel like I got killed in some cheap way by some skill gap reducing element that the devs intentionally put in the game to try to like level that playing field out a little bit. And connection aside, when I die, I almost always feel like, yep, I deserve that death, respawn, let's get back into it. And outside of that list of launch bugs that I provided, for me at least, and for what I look for in a Call of Duty, this game is better than Modern Warfare 2 in absolutely every way. So far, there is nothing that I am missing from Modern Warfare 2 that I feel like they took a step back in. Everything gameplay-wise, from my perspective in Modern Warfare 3, is a clear step forward. And one of the big things I want to point out here, from my point of view at least, and for what I look for in a Call of Duty, I can't think of any serious core gameplay issues with this. That's not to say that there aren't issues, but there's nothing that's so deeply embedded to the core of this game that it would require a full-on overhaul for me to suddenly like it. Last year with Modern Warfare 2, we had the perk system, for instance. I strongly disliked that perk system from the first time that I played that game, and my opinion never changed on that. If anything, I just ended up hating it more and more as time went on. So that was that big thing that I knew immediately was going to hold the game back for the entire year unless they were to overhaul it. In Modern Warfare 3, I can't think of anything like that relates to the gameplay design at least. Obviously, things like the matchmaking, disbanding lobbies, I hate that stuff. But as far as we know, that's far outside of Sledgehammer's control, and of course, that wasn't going to be going anywhere this year. And I'm going to say something that I definitely haven't said in recent years with Call of Duty. I'm going to call it right now. I believe this is going to be my favorite Call of Duty in the modern era. So since Modern Warfare 2019, I think Modern Warfare 3 is likely going to be my favorite out of all of them. At the moment, I'd say Cold War is at the top. I do think this game has the potential to even top Cold War for me. Now, to be clear, I am only comparing it to the modern CODs because they all have the same sort of matchmaking system and disbanding lobbies, which really holds the game back. And I don't think this game will ever top the experience I had in the classic Call of Duty games before Modern Warfare 2019. But as far as modern CODs go with modern Call of Duty problems, I can definitely see this game becoming my favorite. Now, for those that are asking, should you buy this game? I'm not going to tell you one way or the other. If you think this is a game you're going to enjoy based on the reviews that you've seen, hopefully you're watching reviews from other creators as well as just by watching the gameplay. If it looks like the game for you, then go for it. If not, or if you're still on the fence, I'd say hold off a little bit. See what that post-launch support looks like. See how many of these bugs they get on top of and how quickly they get on top of these bugs, and then just go from there. Now, admittedly, this isn't going to be the game for everyone. If you don't like the faster-paced movement-style Call of Duty games, this may not be the game for you, and you might want to stick to Modern Warfare 2. That's totally fine. I understand that. And additionally, I realize many people feel very burned by the fact that at one point, this game was intended to be a DLC, and then they pivoted on that and created a full game out of it. If that alone is a deal breaker for you, then fair enough. I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. I personally don't care what it was meant to be. I care what it is. And judging this game on its own, just looking at the multiplayer side of things, I'm really liking this game so far, and they've just checked off so many items on my wish list. So call it a DLC, call it whatever you want. I personally don't care. All I care about is the quality of the gameplay experience, and this is definitely the game for me. And with that, I am curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. What are your initial thoughts on Modern Warfare 3 now that we've got a little bit of gameplay time? Are you generally leaning toward the positive side? Do you like this game? Or not so much? And if you dislike this game, please let me know why you dislike this game. If you enjoyed this video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.